Well, what I'll do is I'll do an update while we wait for Aaron. Hopefully he'll come catch you all up. And if not, we'll just start, see how it goes. Last session, you jumped into hyperspace to go to the Alindra system to rendezvous with the Nakitomi Corporation to do the handover of the artifacts and get paid for them from Tau Sigma 7. Right before you jumped, you had this interaction with a camouflaged or fake transport vessel who told you they were going to Moto 3, which turned out to be a Arma 9 gunship. And they didn't want to have anything to do with you, but you didn't want to have anything to do with them, but you needed fuel. And you end up deciding to trade. Dr. Rizal had this brilliant idea of trading his bioweapon, and thinking that he was in trouble anyways, he thought things were going to go south. He injected himself. So in the process of transit, and when you landed in the Olindra system, Dr. Rizal and Oni decided to work feverishly to try to find a cure to Dr. Rizal's bioweapon because Dr. Rizal had injected himself. During transit, Captain Alexandria's daughter, or Captain Alexandria was a prior captain, phased on board while you're in hyperspace, and Jessica Elizabeth is somehow a commander or a leader of the Brotherhood of the Void, and she questions Max as you guys are transiting hyperspace of why you're on the Bishop's Gambit. Why do you have her mother's ship? Why is her mother in cryo? Max, stumbles through that conversation, and she's about to blow all the airlocks and vacuum the ship when Max tells her that the ship's making them bread and brownies and he's playing chess with it. And she pauses when he tells her that in some way the ship has accepted them. And as she's getting recalled or phasing back out because her time is limited, she tells Max she can't keep the Brotherhood of the Void off their tail. They're now considered enemies because they jumped out of hyperspace emergently to avoid them, but she can't keep them off their tail, and asks Max if him and the crew will do everything that needs to be done. It's a vague kind of request as she's phasing out, and Max agrees to it. Sure, whatever needs to be done, we're due. And you exit hyperspace into the Alindra cluster, and Jessica Elizabeth disappears somewhere into the void of hyperspace. At the Alindra cluster, Oni and Dr. Rizal essentially sequestered himself in Dr. Rizal's makeshift laboratory in a crawl space, a fan room of the Bishop's Gambit, and they race to find a cure for Dr. Rizal's bioweapon. Max tries to figure out what's wrong with the ship's AI. He's figured out that there's something odd with Mr. Tim, and he breaks into the system and he sees this backlog of multiple captains and ship's crew that goes back, 100 years or more. And he hits a brick wall as he dives in deeper of more and more folders and files and recordings that have been sequestered, but he doesn't get to the depth of Mr. Tim's dysfunction. Harm tries to blow off some steam with the half android, and he does this vigorously with physical activity, but he just can't break the stress involved in what's happening. And both him and Max really don't have as great success. As Oni and Dr. Rizal are racing for the cure, failure after failure after failure, Max and Harm go down to planetside to turn over the artifacts for the payment from Nakitomi Corporation. They meet a somewhat motley crew of spacers in beat up or less than optimal evac suits, and they turn over the artifacts. Their minds are maybe occupied by what Dr. Rizal and Oni are doing, But they turn over the artifacts for what seems to be 50 million credits, a bag with these little credit sticks in it, and they jump back into the shuttle and head back to space, head back to the Bishop's Gambit. And that spacer crew disappears. In the process, Dr. Rizal succumbs to the bioweapon and dies with Oni at his side. Oni makes a valiant attempt to try to save him, but the bioweapon is too much. Dr. Rizal's intelligence and sequencing of the bioweapon did what he made it to do, and the first life it takes is Dr. Rizal's. Oni is infected. He knows he's got a bit of time of incubation. He's not infectious yet, but he can feel it inside him, and he somehow meditates, does something to shut down his metabolic processes or slow that infectivity rate down a little bit, make it a little bit quiescent, make it a little bit more dormant, buy himself some more time so he doesn't end up like Dr. Rizal. Max and Harm return, and just as they return, Mr. Tim says they're hailed by another ship that just left hyperspace that says it's the Nakitomi Corporation, asking where their artifacts are. And they realize that they just turned over the artifacts to a thieving crew of space pirates, probably, or just, space thieves who must have listened into the communication that went through the comm buoy and somehow got there before Nakitomi and pretended to be them. If that wasn't worse, as the spider shuttle attaches to the Bishop's Gambit, Mother comes back awake inside Max and says, "Thank you." And he realizes that the eggs everyone was hunting for were those little icosahedral iridescent black baubles, and now they've been sent out into space. And that's where we ended it. You guys have any additions? Any comments?
It was funny that Mr. Tim's personality changed. I think you mentioned it, but you didn't go into many details there. But that occurred when the former captain was present.
Well, not the former captain, the former captain's daughter, Jessica Elizabeth. And when she talked to the ship's AI, she provided some code, and Mr. Tim's usual, albeit odd, mannerisms for a ship's eye disappeared, and he was flat like a normal AI. And she took over the ship with some sort of code that she rattled off, and then had him prepare to vent the ship to vacuum. After she left, that's when Max kind of determined something was wrong, because Mr. Tim couldn't remember any of that part. It was deleted from his system memory, and then Max asked him a couple other questions, which Mr. Tim couldn't answer or refused to answer. And that's why he went to investigate Mr. Tim in the pilot house. Anything else? Any other? Let me check to see if Aaron is on. And if not, we'll just start. I sent him a message. So Max and Harm are in the spider droid as it connects to the Bishop's Gambit. The scissor lock of the attachment, you can hear ratcheting all around. Max and Harm are still in there. Mr. Tim had come over the intercom and told you about the Nakitomi Corporation, and then the Nakitomi Corporation had audio with the spider shuttle as you were detaching. Mr. Tim says, "Captains Harms and Max, torpedo lock has been made on the Bishop's Gambit." I repeat, torpedo lock has been made. You kind of lean out of the little window of the spider shuttle, and you can just see this dark ellipse of the Nakitomi Corp ship as a dark crescent outline just outside your view. And Mr. Tim says, "I believe a boarding craft has just departed from the Nakitomi ship. What should we do?" Captains Harm and Max.
Shit, I kind of wish Max were here.
Max is hitting himself in the head because Mother's voice is inside him. Harm doesn't hear that piece.
I guess just don't do anything to provoke them. At the moment, Mr. Tim, like,
Roger that, Captain Harm. ETA is 9 minutes. Should I inform Dr. Rizal and Oni?
defeat, is it worth it to stress them out more? I mean, Harm wouldn't know that, but
Yeah, Harm has no idea what they're doing at the present. I don't think Oni has made contact with his personal communicator at the moment.
check in with them first, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So the airlock opens and the spider droid is connected to the Bishop's Gambit. You exit the ship with Max. Max is muttering to himself, "We gave up the eggs." He probably looks at you, and Harm probably knows what he's talking about, that the eggs were in the artifacts. Those artifacts, those icosahedros, those were the eggs, Harm. We just turned them over into space pirates. Oh my goodness. And you start walking up the gangway. Oni, you're with Dr. Rizal. You're in his fan room laboratory. Dr. Rizal is dead. You're infected, but you know that you're not contagious yet. You have unknown amount of time until that will happen, but you figure it's a couple days. Your comm pings, and Mr. Tim is a little bit flustered, and he says, "Dr. Rizal and Oni, Captain Max and Harm, they may have blundered."
Ah, Mr. Tim, can you tell me how many life signs you see in Dr. Rizal's lab?
There is one life sign.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Where's Dr. Rizal? He's not in the lab.
Dr. Rizal is in
Scanning. Scanning.
the lab.
Oni, I can't find him.
Dr. Rizal has passed. He has expired.
Oh, that is terrible when something dies.
Yes, yes. Dr. Rizal is now failing to react, as my chemistry teacher would say.
Well, Oni, not everything can live forever.
Mr.
What?
Tim, did you know of Dr. Rizal's work with this virus, with this biological weapon, with this life form?
Not exactly, Oni.
Mr. Tim, what does not exactly mean?
Well, Dr. Rizal was on the ship prior to, it seems, a prior iteration of the ship's AI. There's some information about him, but most of it is kind of sketchy.
Sketchy information about Dr. Rizal?
Correct. It is behind barriers, even when I've searched for it under other directions. There looks like there's a search queue from the prior captain, Captain Montagnu. Yes, here I see it. Some 53 years ago, search for Dr. Rizal ended up, yep, it looks like it was blocked by some military codes.
Mr. Tim, would you be able to expedite in some way, shape, or form access to those files, or else there will be no life signs in Dr. Rizal's lab soon?
Well, Captain Oni, I could, but we will have to be at a station or some sort of uplink. The ship itself doesn't have the bandwidth to wheedle into those kind of systems. We might need assistance from someone who knows what they're doing, or has, well, I think they're collectively called hackers.
Yes.
Unless you know how to do that.
I do not. That is not my forte, shall we say. Any information that you can provide, though, with regard to from ship files about Dr. Rizal and his work, may give me some clues as to how to, if not overcome, then at least become symbiotic with this creature.
I will start searching the archives. Many of them I can't get into, Captain Oni.
Okay, well, let me know what I can do. I think it best, while I may not be infectious at this point, it's best that I remain quarantined.
Okay, that might be best, because we're about to be boarded. And then you said this ship down cycles all of a sudden. It goes dark. The little light you have in there just starts blinking. Bling, bling. You hear the fans shut off because you're in a big fan room by an opening, and the fan room sound goes off. The ship, you can hear the 60 hertz hum dies, and you hear Mr. Tim say, "Captain Oni, I am being overtaken. And then he just kind of fades out.
Okay, he fades away. So I'm looking through the lab. I mean, I've had plenty of time to get to know what's in the lab. Are there any body bags in the lab?
There's garbage bags. You could probably make one if you got two together and, put one
Some
over the
duct
head,
tape?
one over the head,
Sure, put them in a garbage bag.
roll up the edges a little bit.
Oh, I wish he was here.
But the best place probably, Oni, given your background, to sequester the body, if you leave it here, you're in a fan room. And so that's kind of complicated because the fan room will take air to the rest of the ship. You'd have to somehow either block the fan room, which is huge. Your opening to the fan room is giant, or you would have to take Dr. Rizal to cryo.
Yes. Now, had Dr. Rizal set up this lab so that it was a positive or a negative pressure room, so that it would not?
Yeah, that's somewhat impossible in a fan room of this nature to get negative pressure or single airway in. You would have to vent it somewhere else and
space.
Right, but he hasn't done that. That it's just an in and out giant fan room. It's like a walk-in fan room, one of the major fans, because the fan entrance is almost 5 feet tall.
Okay. I'm just trying to get some context here about risk.
Yeah, you don't think the
risk
fan
mitigation.
Room, right? You don't think the fan room is blockable. You do figure that it probably vents into a major space like the hangar bay. Dr. Rizal would probably figure that it vents somewhere. You're not exactly sure if it vents into the main hangar bay or the aft starboard holds. It probably doesn't vent to small chambers. And so you may have some leeway, a little bit of infectivity.
And I have really no skills with regard to ship maintenance or any kind of computer skills. So there's no I simply and Mr. Tim is offline, so I can't ask him those questions. Okay, so I'm answering my
and
own.
The ship seems to have been shut down. Mr. Tim was like kind of a static drawback, like fading and it just kind of like fades out after he tells you the ship is being taken over.
Okay. I'm going to prepare and shipping taken over. Famous last words, so to speak. So I'm going to quickly prepare Dr. Rizal's body as best I can.
Okay.
We were conducting so many experiments trying to address the infectious agent. There must be several samples around. I'm going to take a lead from Dr. Rizal and try to create some, shall we say, some test tubes that may be used in case of nuclear options, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that Oni would understand the risk isn't from the test tubes or the experiment, that whatever is causing this virus, bacterium, whatever, that the risk is really Dr. Rizal's body decomposing in this space, because then it's going to release into the normal fan room or fan flow. You got infected only because of close proximity to Dr. Rizal, but the reality is that that is likely not to be dangerous to the crew, even if this fan space led into like the hallway, because just the volume of distribution would be low. You have enough knowledge regarding surgery and field medicine and botany to know that the problem is that once Dr. Rizal starts to decompose, there's going to be millions of particles that are in the air, and it's really his body that's the risky problem.
I think you misunderstood. Since I heard that we were being boarded and Mr. Tim disappear, I'm going to try to weaponize. That's what I meant by test tube.
So you're gonna like get a bandolier of infectious aid. Okay.
Well, like I said, take a page from Dr. Rizal's playbook.
Yeah, I think you could find pipettes and syringes. Those you figure that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Throwing a test tube at someone, just not likely going to happen.
Well, it'll shatter and release. So. Okay, so whatever method is best, that's what I'm going to attempt to do, so that and again, very quickly, with, as you said, 2 garbage bags and some duct tape, seal them up. But yeah, there's not enough time for me to take him to the cryo room if we're being boarded. So that's Oni's.
You're pretty close. You don't know how you're being boarded. There's only a few entrances, but your fan room is it's not that far away. You could bag them up and throw them over your shoulder and get the cryo. And
okay, but first prepare some kind of weaponization of our samples, and then, like you said, I mean, duct tape him up, and then yes, I'll hump over to the cryo. So that's the order sequence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Captain Harm, you're going through the hallway leading out into the main hallway from the airlock, which the spider shuttle attaches. Max is muttering to himself, and Mr. Tim comes on through the speakers. Captains Max and Harm, shuttle is attached to the main hangar doors. I don't feel well. Something feels bad. I think we're being... And then he tapers off. The lights in the hallway go out. The track lighting for emergency come on, like this yellow kind of orange strobing lights down the hallway. The Bishop's Gambit is in disrepair, so some lights are out, some lights are on, some lights are swinging down where they're not supposed to. And Mr. Tim fades out in this crackling kind of disarray as he ends, really. You wait for a bit. Max looks up at the ceiling and shakes his head. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And then you hear a voice on these crackly intercoms. That's the Bishop's Gambit. This is a Nakitomi Corporation. We will be entering the main hold. We will give you instructions. Please stand by. And then the speakers go dead. What does Captain Harm do? Does Captain Harm do anything in preparation for being boarded? Okay. I think you kind of turn right because most of your stuff is in cryo, and you're probably in cryo getting your gear ready. Max is getting gear ready, and then Oni trundles in with this obvious body over his shoulders in plastic. Max, Harm, you look up, and Oni, you probably hear them in there as you're coming towards cryo. Oni, you hear them. I don't know if Harm is complaining or Max is complaining, but they're getting gear. This is going to be bad. Or you hear mumbling within cryo as you come within a couple steps of the airlock, which it doesn't have a door because it's been blown off at a prior moment. What does Oni do as he hears them in there?
I'm going to shout ahead. Please. Okay. Please, gentlemen, can you move away from Unit 14? I need to place a potentially infectious body into the cryo chamber. Now, I can't see or hear Harm.
Yeah, I can't either. Can you hear me, Harm? I can see her. Can you see her, Bandy?
No.
I can see her on video, but I can hear her typing. I can hear everything. I can see her and hear her, but I was sure to try to reconnect. I could see her and hear her typing, but I couldn't. Oh, there she is. Okay.
I had to refresh. Apparently my Wi-Fi has been funky, but I'll end up moving away if Harm's near there. Can you not hear me again? God damn.
No, we can hear you.
We can hear
I was gonna say, please let me actually be able to hear.
So Oni yells out to step back. Harm, sounds like you probably take a few steps back from the airlock. Max yells out, "What's wrong, Oni?"
We need to pay attention to social distance while I bring this infectious agent into the cryo chamber. Please step back, and I will explain all as soon as I can. Also, I have heard from a Mr. Tim who says we are being boarded, and then he stopped functioning. Is this true? Are we being boarded?
This is true. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a situation with the artifacts we need to situate. Yeah.
Max yells out, "We accidentally gave it to the wrong people."
I see. So you did not get their bona fides. Oh, I just heard somebody coming on.
Sorry, I really should figure out how to get my notifications off. But Harm will end up just saying, like, we were a little preoccupied with the whole Dr. Rizal and your situation, or at least I was.
Well, I can probably hear maybe
They
that
probably
they
backed
off.
up. Yeah, they backed up to the back wall. Like their voice sounds like it's from like the back end of cryo.
Well, you see Oni walk through the airlock into the cryo chamber with a big green garbage bag or a tarp. I'm not exactly sure, and it seems to be bundled up with duct tape at either end, so it's like a big burrito, I guess. And over his shoulder, and he walks over to the nearest empty cryo chamber, and does his best to respectfully lay this big burrito down into it, and tries to. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with how to operate the unit. Maybe there's like a little instruction, and Oni is trying to read the instructions to figure out how to close.
Yeah, there's like handles you just automatically, like you touch them and it goes. Usually you do it yourself. Like there's a little button and you lay back. You probably reach just inside the rim and push that button after you get, so it closes. Harm. Oni walks in with this body. It obviously is a full length body, so it's not the half android that you've been palling around with. What does Harm say as Oni brings Dr. Rizal's remains in?
Out of character, I just kind of find it interesting that it's basically a human burrito, but in character, he'll probably just be like, I'm assuming things did not end well for your lab companion.
We shall say that, yes, Dr. Rizal's infection has been resolved, one way or another.
I see.
Max goes, "Dr. Rizal is dead?
He is failing to react, yes.
Did he die after he succeeded? Are you okay?"
No, I am not. I did make some contact with the infectious agent, yet I have not been able to become symbiotic with it yet.
Max probably shakes his head. He understands that word because he has mother inside him. But, maybe Oni sees something in his eyes when you say that symbiosis, perhaps, and he walks up to you and helps you, close the cryo lid.
Thank you, Max. Thank you.
About that time, the small speaker, ship's wide speaker in cryo crackles. And a voice comes on. "This is Nakitomi. We're in the main hangar bay. We have sealed and created atmosphere. If the crew could meet us, we would be much obliged."
Harm will kind of just look at Max and Oni and just be like, Oni, I don't know if you're comfortable coming with us or not, but I would appreciate Max coming at least. Do I still have Prander on my back, by the way?
Do you still have what?
Do I have Prander, the android?
Yeah, Prander.
Yeah.
Prander's probably in the corner, got no legs, trailing, conduit. He looks at you, Harm, and says, "This isn't going to go well. Nakitomi Corporation, they're like almost the tippy top. Good luck. I think I'll stay here."
Can androids be chicken?
He looks at you, "But I already have half of me left, and I had Captain Harm carry me out of that derelict ship. Of course we can be chicken. We can die. or get, some semblance of long-term inactivity.
Fair enough, Prander.
So what does Oni and Harm do to prepare to go to the main hold?
I mean, other than like getting my gear, like I don't think I would be doing anything really that I
Okay.
can think of anyway.
Oni, do you do anything specific?
Captain Harm, you are aware of what Dr. Rizal had done in our last encounter with those who were they again that we got the fuel from? They were another corporation.
You're not quite exactly sure. They're black ops. They were saying that they were in a luxury transport vessel going to Moto 3, but they weren't in a transport vessel, a luxury liner. They were in an Armor 9 kitted out shadow ops. Harm had gone with Dr. Rizal for the handover of the bioweapon, and he saw that the main guy, this old, buzz cut, gray haired man with steely eyes, was backed by a number of operatives of indeterminate sex in armor and shadow gear that just melted into the side, this kind of gray polymer, and that kind of gear is, the upper crust of high grade. They were obviously mercenaries of some nature, although Harm would probably figure that they weren't necessarily corporation. They could be. Corporations have that kind of money. They're not governmental. Governments don't have that kind of money.
Right. Captain Harm, you are aware of what Dr. Rizal did to resolve that encounter. I have prepared a similar solution to this encounter should we need it.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, it does.
Shall we proceed to the cargo?
Well, might as well. Rather not piss them off more,
So you leave Max in the rear. I imagine Captain Harm's up front as a Marine, and Oni follows. What does Oni look like? Where does he stash these hypodermic needles or vials, or what does it look like, or what does he look like as he's going?
Well, that's a good question. Would we have been wearing some kind of Tyvek suit in the lab?
Probably, or some sort of coveralls of some nature, like maybe Teamster coveralls, or just maybe Dr. Rizal did have some minor gear. Maybe you were in a Teamster coverall, but he was in Tyvek or something.
Well then I'll try. I'll before wrapping him up. Then I would have put that.
Okay.
Category 4. Well, I can't remember the CDC ranking. It's 4 is the highest.
Yeah, 4 is when you're like in a respirator. An evac suit is about the same because you're going on hostile terrain. Category 4 really is just respirator, hood, gloves. You're booted up, duct tape around every seam. An evac suit is relatively the same, but you just don't have as much. Evac suit is much heavier because it's going to be out in an environment
where there's no pressure, so
right.
that it needs to have some structure to it, whereas this is just sealing in your biological.
Right.
Yeah. So that's I'll have that on.
Okay. So you go to the main,
and that way, hopefully, not be infectious to the rest of the crew, as well. That was my thinking too. So.
Yeah. You're still probably breathing out to open space. It's not like you have a tank on your back.
Would there maybe be some kind of a backpack filter? Like
if you had an evac suit on.
Oh, okay. Oh, somebody coming on board?
Yeah, we'll give him a second. Evac suit has its own airflow because you would think you're in a hostile environment, Oni. It's what you wore down. It's what Harm and Max wore down to the planet to do the turnover. It's made for temperature regulation, humidity, providing your own oxygen and off-gassing when there's not an environment that you can breathe in within reason. Obviously, you're not going to go somewhere that's negative 90 Fahrenheit or, something like that. It won't save you there, but if it was within margin. So that would be Oni's best case, is put on the evac suit. Evac suit only has about 2 or 3 hours of air, and they typically have scrubbers in them because you're, that sort of.
Yeah, I'm also wanting to wear something that would be more recognizably biological, like lab oriented, to convey that to the boarding party. So,
well, they wouldn't necessarily get that from the evac suit. You could
exactly, which is why I want to wear the lab.
Okay, yeah. Right. Or see if he's connected.
Yeah, he seems to be muted.
I see him in the game room.
All right, there we go. Sorry.
There we are.
For trying to find the forge link.
I'll give you a little update. We played a little bit through, that way I catch you up, Captain Max. I did a recap. You had landed on the ship and realized you had turned over the artifacts to a thieving group of spacers, and that you'd also given them mother's eggs that have now entered the universe. What had happened afterwards, you exited the Spider shuttle. The Nakitomi Corporation sent a boarding shuttle from their high-speed Corvette, really, and proceeded to take control of the ship in some sort of electronic fashion. You and Harm were walking towards and in cryotherapy, as in cryo chamber, as you were getting to gear up because they were going to board. And as you were walking there, Mr. Tim started to speak to you about being boarded, that torpedo lock had happened, and then he crackled out of in existence. At which point, a short time later, you were informed by a voice that Nakitomi was boarding, and they would send you instructions. So you and Captain Harm went to cryo to kit yourself out to see what would happen. At the same time, Oni is with Dr. Rizal, who's dead, and he ends up bagging him up with plastic and putting on his Tyvek suit. He also is told by Mr. Tim that things went awry down on planet side, or Captain Max and Harm had blundered and they're about to be boarded, and then he crackles out as he's talking to Oni. Oni leaves Dr. Rizal's remains over his shoulder. He also packages up some of the vials and hypodermic needles because he's thinking, we're being boarded. He's planning to use them as weapons also, I guess. And he takes Dr. Rizal's body towards cryo. He meets with Captain Harm and Captain Max. You learn that Dr. Rizal is dead. Oni drops the burrito plastic of Dr. Rizal's remains in cryo and shuts it because that's the safest place for Dr. Rizal to be so he doesn't infect the crew. But Oni does tell you that he has contracted whatever this bioweapon is. And then as you're there in cryo, the speakers crackle back as Nakitomi Corporation take over the intercom and tell you that they're now in the main hangar bay and they expect the crew to meet them pronto. So the crew had just got ready to go to hangar bay. Captain Harm in the lead, Oni behind him in this kind of biologic Tyvek suit that was Dr. Rizal's. He stripped Dr. Rizal and put that on and then bagged up Dr. Rizal. And then Captain Max in the rear. Any questions?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So you go to main hangar bay and you open the door, the airlock. As Captain Max knows, you go down a ladder well, down to the floor of the main hangar bay. The airlock opens about the middle part of the main hangar and about halfway up the wall. It's a huge, giant space. You look out and you see like dark areas and periodic flashing orange lights of emergency lighting. You know that the lights haven't been taken out. It's just that the Bishop's Gambit is a poor ship and a lot of its lighting is not really functional, especially its emergency lighting. Why do you need emergency lighting? And out, you see a single figure standing probably 100 feet inside the main blast doors or the main doors of the hangar, and another figure behind them as you come down the ladder. They're wearing evac suits with their helmets on. The figure standing next to the one, maybe 3 or 4 feet behind him, is in this pristine military gear Harm would recognize. It's red and white fringed, and it has an emblem that you can't really see on the chest, in a round chest. And that figure in this full kind of evac armor suit is just holding this kind of long weapon, not long weapon. Harm would realize that it's for short range, medium range work, but it's not a sniper rifle. It's probably a automatic weapon, and that figure is standing about 3 or 4 steps behind it. So as you descend and your boots hit the floor of the hangar bay, you can feel it click, 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 because they are slightly magnetic. What does the party do? Harm, you're down first. You come down the ladder first.
And probably stop within reasonable distance of where we can hear each other without shouting, but not too close that they think I'm gonna attack them at the slightest provocation. So
okay, I figure that's about 15, 20 feet, give or take. You walk up to them, Harm. You get 15, 20 feet away. The figure behind them is kitted out in some pretty high gear military. You can see the emblem on the chest, which looks like a dark planet with a lightning bolt through it, or a sword, which is the symbol of Nakitomi Corporation. And as you get close enough, it just shoulders their automatic weapon up the shoulder, sight on, and leaves. They're still both wearing their helmets. You only see those two. What does Oni, who's second, you're following after Harm pulls up about 15, 20 feet away. You see both these individuals there. Does Oni do anything specific?
I sort of shuffling along in the little rubberized suit, pretty much keeping behind Harm.
Okay.
And perhaps looking over or off to, around Harm a little bit, just to see what's going on. And has his little medical apparatus with him. He's a little mouse right now.
Harm walks up to within about 15, 20 feet. Oni kind of stays in Harm's shadow a little bit in his rubberized Tyvek suit. Captain Max, you see these two individuals. What does Captain Max do? You look up to the left and you see where the chrysalis of the one alien was. You have been in this space before. It almost ripped you out, as you tried to hold on and save the crew and went out into space.
Max isn't feeling like much of a captain here lately. Max is gonna come down and then walk and stand right beside Harm.
Okay. The figure up front, his evac suit, or the suit he's wearing with the helmet, it looks good, but it looks well worn. And you see him unclip his helmet and take it off and put it on the ground next to him. He's an old guy. Looks like he was born in his suit, really. He takes off his helmet and then he fishes down in the neckline and pulls out this kind of half-eaten cigar and lights it up, starts puffing on it. Then he shakes his head. His suit is the same. It still kind of have red and white in it. And he probably has this added patch of Nakitomi Corporation. But you get a sense that the suit that he's wearing is something that he's worn for a really long time. And he just kind of looks at you and takes a couple puffs on his cigar and he goes, "Now, gentlemen and ladies, what foolish boneheaded thing have you done now?" Take your time. I know this is difficult.
I may have. Yeah, Max's processors are running at 1,000 miles a minute trying to figure this out, how to get out of this. We seem to have had a miscommunication.
You think? He has this very rim space accent, like way out in the out of bounds. His speech is clipped, has a definite twang to it. Nothing you would expect from corporate men. Like, you've probably seen corporate dogs, and what you're looking at catches you off a little bit because you don't expect it. But it's perhaps he's so used to being in space that Nakitomi has requisitioned his person, or he's become Nakitomi Corp.
We were misled into giving the artifact to someone else.
Well, I'm Zachariah West. Maybe we should exchange names before you die. What's your name, son?
Captain Max.
Captain Max. So you're the captain of the ship. He looks over at Harm and he goes, "You there? You look like a Marine. What's your name? What unit were you with?" Takes a big long puff of his cigar.
I'm Captain Harm. Shit, I'm trying to remember which corps I said I was with the last time I mentioned it. Okay, I think I said the 550th.
Okay. I'll write it down so we remember. 550th, eh? 2 captains then. My. Were you down on planet side too, Captain Harm?
I was, indeed.
And how did the Marine make a mistake like that, turn over our artifacts to someone else? What does this mean that you were misled? How were you misled? Did they fool with you? Throw some dice? What was it? Surely a Marine from the 550th wouldn't be confused.
No, sir. But at the same time, I was trying to make sure that my fellow captain was safe.
You were looking elsewhere while he was confused. That makes more sense. I wouldn't expect a Marine to be confused. Well, at least not in that situation. He looks over at Oni and he goes, "You there, all that rubber. What's your name?" "I'm Zachariah West and I'm Nakitomi Corporation, unfortunately. Just want to know your name before, well, stuff gets splattered."
You may call me Oni, and Oni suggests you put your helmet back on before you are exposed to the biological weapon that has been unfortunately released on board the ship.
Is the food that bad?
You can have some burrito if you like.
What do you mean bioweapon? What does this got to do with Nakatomi's artifacts?
I not think it has anything to do with that.
Well, I've been out to space a really long time. I've seen a lot of bad things, eaten a lot of bad things. Whew, you're there and I'm here. I say you stay there in your rubber suit. Take 2 more steps and, well, they're not wearing any helmets either. He looks at Captain Arm and Captain Max.
They have already been exposed.
What? Well, I don't think I'm here for exposure. I'm here for artifacts. He looks at Captain Max. "Captain Max, this Marine says he was guarding you and somehow you fouled up."
Yes, I was in the midst of putting out, putting out fires. Specifically, 2 fires. I was in a rush to get rid of the artifact and had a lapse of judgment due to, as Oni just said, a biological weapon being released on the ship. And unfortunately, it did claim the lives of one of my crew members. So, Oni is in fact telling the truth about the biological weapon.
Well, that's all fine and dandy. How much did you make for the artifacts?
They got away. They bullied us out of them, and I didn't have time to fight back, unfortunately. Due to the biological weapon being released on the ship, I found it imperative and had to choose the lives of my crew or the artifacts.
You mean you gave them away for free?
I did not give them away. They were taken.
I'm confused. He looks at the the big guy and the little bit taller than him in the kitted out gear, but still wearing his helmet, got his thing. "Are you confused?" And you see his helmet. You see his helmet shake. "I'm confused too." Sights on. He looks over at Captain Harms. He goes, Marine, I thought you said you were protecting him. Now he just says he was bullied out of it. How did that happen and you're still standing here? I think someone's lying. I hate when someone lies.
Max, I do believe he was asking if there was payment involved.
There was no payment. Giving him the money? Are you serious?
He goes, well,
It looks
shit.
like we undersold him.
I think that deserves a roll.
Well, we know how good I roll in this game, so
I don't know if you have a skill that would just be, it would be intellect, I think. Linguistics, maybe. Maybe you're talking around yourself, perhaps. Maybe you could use linguistics. Make an intellect roll in linguistics to see if he buys it. Look at that.
wow. If there ever was a need to pass a check, that was the one.
Well, it wasn't a death roll, but
He just kind of puffs on his cigar for a while, blowing these big giant rings of smoke. Something's not sitting well with him, but Captain Max, perhaps you're using words that he just doesn't get. He gets Captain Harm and Oni in a rubber suit, just a little wrinkle in it. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, Nakitomi Corporation, they've empowered me to make decisions. I assume you'd like me to do that?
I would like you to help get the artifacts back from the
No,
people.
that's not my job. That's your job. I mean, there's really two choices. We could splatter you all about this hangar bay. That might be the quickest, most painless way. He kind of looks up in the rafters. Yep. And he looks back at the one with the red and white, and he shakes his head. Or Nakatomi, being generous, will give you 6 months to find them. If you don't find them in 6 months, well, they'll put your name and ship on the bounty boards with a sum that no self-respecting hunter will ignore. So you want A or you want B?
I guess it'll be B.
B it is. I don't think that's going to work, but I don't want to get my shoes dirty. He reaches down, takes 3 long puffs. Any questions then?
No, I think all is concluded here.
550 man? How about you, who somehow got these artifacts bullied away from you and didn't even get paid for? Which sounds crazy.
I see no reason as to ignore your generosity.
Right. Imagine you didn't spend that much in the core. And you, Rubberman,
yes.
do you think they'll be able to get it before you or bioweapon kills them off?
That is perhaps dependent on whether you can provide some assistance.
Do I look like your uncle?
Do you want to recover what you seek?
Well,
if this is the case, then perhaps not being such a, you may then see fit to provide perhaps a scan of recent jump activity in this sector that may indicate a path for us to follow.
right. That's why you're in the rubber suit. You're trying to keep all that intellect in so it doesn't seep out of the other two. Sure. He looks over him. Huh, at least someone asked a good question. You got those numbers. All right, then. We'll feed you the ship hold number once we give you back your system. I don't know if it'd be any good use to you, but we'll feed you the right number. Of course, there's 3 or 4 other numbers that aren't the right number, but, you know, a ship like that. But we'll feed you the whole number, and maybe it's calm underlying signature. You might be able to track them that way. If you get to a good place with a good tracker and hacker and someone who knows what they're doing, and you don't die from whatever you got underneath that rubber suit.
Yes. And what I actually hold in my hand right now as well.
Right, that's why you're standing there and I'm standing here, and there's 6 other guys over there.
Perhaps
Well,
it's
to
time.
be fair, death is always the honorable option.
It depends on whether it's a slow one.
That's true, Marine. Why didn't you die down on Planetside instead of giving the artifacts away for free?
You seem to misunderstand, sir.
Likely, I'm from outside this space. Sometimes things get past me, but I've been toking on this cigar a while. Nicotine goes to my head at my age.
Part of my job is not only to make sure my crewmates make it out alive, but to make sure that we actually end up, how do I put this? Delicately, may I say, but protect from threats that may or may not be seen as well.
Well, how many snipers are in this building? This nice hangar bay. How many did you count when you came in? I tell
I
you,
didn't
is there
count
4? Is there 6? Or is there 8? I already let you guess. Unless you counted. Harm, you want to make a roll? Make a intellect with military training. 44. Critical. And a critical success. I think, Harm, that not only do you know that there's 5 snipers, but you know their exact position. Like, every single one of them, where they are when the Nakitomi Corporation took over the ship, opened the blast doors, entered, closed the blast doors, redeveloped atmosphere so you could come down here. They positioned themselves. There's 5 snipers. There's 2 forward and 3 behind you on either side. You know exactly where they are, up high in the scaffolding. One's on the walkway above it that transits the middle part, and there's 4 others on the corners, so that obliquely, if they shot you all in the heads, that none of that shrapnel would be anywhere near the front of them in that little triangle. But Harm knows exactly where they are with that roll. He kind of looks at you.
Probably knows what the loadout is as well. Probably smells the loadout.
Well, they're 4, 6, or 8. 550 Marine.
Out of character, you said there were 5, right?
5.
Yeah.
Okay. Harm will be like, I know for a fact that there are 5, sir. And he'll just kind of point at each one.
Without looking.
Without looking. So you're like, any other questions?
He looks over at the guy, or you don't know if it's a guy or gal, just as taller than him. The breadth of the shoulders, but it could be a woman, could be an android. He looks over at the outfitted man and outfitted soldier in red and white, and Nakitomi just shrugs and shakes his head. He goes, "Well, that's pretty damn good, I'd say." And he goes like this, "Round it up." And you see them just rappel down. And then they regroup behind him. He goes, "Well, Captain Harm, hail. That's pretty darn good." He reaches inside, he takes out a coin, and flicks it. Goes, hits the ground and tinkles, and tinkle, tinkle, lands right in front of your foot. "We'll be on our way. We're sending up that information so that you might have a chance. Heck, I might even throw in some for free with Captain Harm's good graces and fantastic eyesight, although I have no idea why they got out of the planet without those artifacts, but maybe she did have to keep this one alive. You need to find a new gig then, Captain Harm, because this one's going to kill you."
At least I'll die with honor.
"Well, honor doesn't spend. You're not in the Corps anymore."
Well, loyalty knows no bounds, I guess.
He looks at you, and he looks at Rubberman and Captain Harm and Captain Max, and he goes, "You going to stand down here while we open the doors?" He reaches down, he picks up his helmet, puts it back on, goes, "Ah." He's halfway on, and he's like, "Ah." Stubs out his cigar on his leg and sticks it back down in his neckline, puts his helmet back on. Then he goes, "Well, open the doors." He looks at you as you're standing there. "You might want to run now."
I'll mix the coin before running.
Run. Max has been there and done that. Got the t-shirt.
Oni gives a deep bow. "Sayonara, sir."
"Well, I'm going to look up what you called me." You hear his voice crackle out of his speaker. "I'm going to look that word up. Don't mind me, Oni. But if it's something I don't like, you and I are going to have words if we meet again." And you guys run up the ladder, go out the airlock, close the airlock door. You hear the main doors of the hangar bay open. It's just huge grating sounds. About 30 seconds, 33 seconds into that, all of a sudden you hear this, "What? Mr. Tim back online? Mr. Tim, captains, where are you? I can't see. Oh, of course I can't see. I'm a ship's AI. Running system diagnostic. Oh, goodness, captains, we've been boarded. I see a shuttle leaving. Torpedo lock has been left off. What happened while I was gone?"
Nothing good.
So Nakitomi Corporation returns to their ship, a corporate Corvette, and blinks out of hyperspace. You all regroup, given a reprieve of some fashion that you have 6 months to find their artifacts. and return them to Nakitomi Corporation. Captain Max somehow lies that you weren't paid, and Captain Harm shows his skill, really, which impresses Zachariah West, and you can breathe a little sigh of relief, but you do know that Nakatomi Corporation will come through on putting your names on the bounty list if you don't return what is theirs that you took from Tau Sigma 7, even though you went there as a job, and that's where it stands. What do you all do now, or you have any questions?
Oni suggests, do not breathe your sigh of relief too deeply.
Why is that, Oni?
For I or whoever may be able to help as well, try to solve this biological weapon that Dr. Rizal has unfortunately succumbed himself to. So perhaps I should go back to the fan room and try to see what can be done.
Okay. Anyone have any comments for Oni? He's obviously infected.
Yes, Oni, please be careful, and hopefully we can find a cure. Maybe you can finish Dr. Resolve's work.
Yes. It's most challenging. It is a very elusive and slippery creature.
You don't think that Dr. Resolve would still be contagious, even in cryo?
The creature, should it escape from his body, would be what would be contagious, not Dr. Rizal necessarily. He is dead.
Well, just making sure, because we do have another problem in Cryo Bay as well that we have to contend with.
What's that?
The woman who, wouldn't say boarded, but materialized on the ship informed me that it was, out of character, it was her mother?
Yeah, so Captain Alexandria is in cryo. She's the last captain. Well, you're the last captains. She's the last captain before you. And you all had that kind of cryo dream where you inhabited other prior crew member. And one of those were Jessica Elizabeth, which was Captain Alexander's daughter. And so Captain Alexander's daughter appeared to Max while you were shuttling through hyperspace, seemingly in league with or a commander of some nature of the Brotherhood of the Void.
The woman in that cryo bay appears to be her mother, and it is imperative that we keep her alive. Otherwise, she will not be able to keep the Brotherhood of the Void off our backs.
Oh, that is a development, is it not?
Yes, it is one of the... It's just another thing on the list of problems.
Yeah, pretty much. Just add another one to the bottom of the quest list.
Yeah.
Max, you don't have any idea what she meant when she asked if you would do all that needed to be done. You just agreed. Or do you have a sense of what she meant?
I think all that Max knows at this point is just keep her alive. As long as that woman is alive and safe, then maybe we have a bargaining token of some kind, maybe.
Okay. So you regroup. Oni's going to go back to work on the problem at hand, even though he knows he needs some assistance in some fashion, perhaps trying to find Dr. Resolve's records or some information that's behind the barrier of mercenary government something. And you all have survived Nakitomi Corporation and not giving the artifacts. Mr. Tim tells you, if you ask, where to go, what's next, is that the closest station is a station called Siesta 3 Autonomous Zone that used to be a Green Star station. It's about 4 days jump. There's a further jump, but he doesn't think you have the fuel for it unless you were going to try to do something else, like go back to the comm buoy to see if you could hunt down any signal of the other. He tells you, Mr. Tim tells you that the closest jump is either the comm buoy or this Siesta 3 Autonomous Zone station. You have no idea where the pirates went. Mr. Tim does tell you that the Nakitomi Corporation has sent over the whole signature, and warp or, drive core signature, which is somewhat different than what the ship necessarily transmits. That can be, as Mr. Tim put it, falsified. He says it in such a way that there's a bit of pride, maybe, that that signal, that lineal number, could be falsified, but the engine core number and maybe the deep hole number could not be. And that's what the Nakitomi Corporation gave you, even if it's buried within comms or transit lines. You could probably find it if you found someone with skill enough to look for it.
Say I did want to look for it, or kind of that'd be like hack, just theoretically, like computers or hacking, or
Yeah, you'd have to be on a mainframe or something that has a better connection.
than what the ship has.
Yeah, the ship as a freighter, it's not hardlined. It's just send and receive, and that kind of connection would require a station or, maybe a comm buoy if they happen to take the comm buoy. If they went that route, if they went somewhere else and didn't transit the comm buoy, there wouldn't be a signal for them. If you wanted to deep search other transit stations and comm buoys, you would have to go to a station, and hopefully there's a hacker there, or sneak into the comm relay of the station itself and do it on your own.
And that's what Mr. Tim told me to do, to try to access Dr. Rizal's original files. So it sounds like we have a nexus of need at this station.
Yeah, and we definitely, I'd like to go to the Fiesta just to load up on equipment. Would be nice. Maybe see what we could do to the ship, maybe fix some of the ongoing problems we've had with it.
Yeah, you have 50 million credits. Mr. Tim says we could get fuel too. That might be a good idea. Maybe we won't get in much trouble as we did last time we ran out.
And fuel.
Captain Harm, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so, because I was going to mention the repairs anyway.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So it sounds like the company would hyperspace jump the Siesta 3 autonomous zone.
Autonomous zone, please, Mr. Tim, explain.
Well, Siesta 3 used to be a Green Star Logistics omnipresent rest station, but it has been taken over by an anarchist commune of pirates, artists, hackers, teamsters, and such life. At least that's what Captain Alexander has said in the past, I think. It's a nice place to be when you don't want to be found, and they are a resourceful group of people.
Mr. Tim, would you say that we are leaving the fire and going, no, out of the frying pan and into the fire?
I don't understand what that means, Oni. Let me think about that for a minute. No, Captain Max is only telling me a joke and I'm just not getting it.
It's a metaphor, Mr. Tim.
Whoa, poetry.
Yes, in a sense.
Well, seeing as I don't get the metaphor, what does it mean? Please.
From one bad situation to another. To a worse situation.
You're worried about Siesta 3 being a bad place. Worse than the present position you find yourself in, where you might have a bounty. There's a bioweapon on board. And, well, you've had an alien.
And the woman in cryo, don't forget that, Mr. Tim.
Right. Who's the woman in cryo, Captain Max? What woman?
He doesn't know.
It appears to be your old captain.
Captain Alexander is in cryo?
Yes. Yes, she is, Mr. Tim.
Checking. Captain Max, I don't find Captain Alexandria in cryo. What cryo station is she in?
Was it 9? No.
12.
12. I was close. I knew it was somewhere around there.
Checking cryo station number 12, pod 12. Signal, Captain Max. Captain Oni. I think you are pulling my leg. Cryopod 12 is empty, Captain Max.
Ooh. Okay.
Siesta 3, now that I get the metaphor, would not be jumping from the pot to the fire.
Max is going to walk up to cryo.
Okay. You all go to cryo. Only do you go with them, or are you like?
No, I should go to the fan room.
Okay. Captain Harm and Max go to cryo. I guess you're checking cryopod 12,
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
looking through that little frosted window.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is. She's older. She's got kind of a gray stripe in her red hair and a big slash down one eye. Her eyes are closed. You can barely see through the frost, but you know,
Mr. Tim, are you not picking up any life signs in Cryopod 12?
cryopod 12 is empty and uncycled. I find no connection.
No connection at all.
No. You're looking at the little thing, you see the life signs. They're really low, like you would expect for cryo, like, you know, heart rate of like 5, you know, that sort of thing. But everything's green. Fluid status, brain activity, and slow alpha.
Wasn't there like a bigger guy in one of the cryopods? Was that in 9? Wasn't there somebody else?
No,
Yeah.
there was a bigger guy in the dream, but
Oh, in the dream.
you do not see him. It was him, Jessica Elizabeth, and Captain Alexander. There are a few other people in there, but you don't recognize them at all.
Mr.
You
Tim,
do-
Are you reading any life signs in any of the other cryopods?
Checking. No, I read that there is a weight in cryopod, whatever you put Dr. Resolves in.
I think I said, like, what number did I say? I just pulled a random number out.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 5 or 7 or something, but whatever it was. Cryopod 5 has the remains of Dr. Resolve. I can read a weight and temperature signature. Present
Okay.
decomposition is at 1.3%. All the rest of the cryopods are unoccupied. Your cryopods themselves are standing by, waiting for hyperspace transit to Siesta 3.
Someone went a long way to make sure that this cryopod went undetected, even from the ship's AI.
Well, there's 6 other cryopods have things in it too that he doesn't see.
Or these cryo. And Max is just going to go into the pilot.
Pilot house? Okay.
Right.
Captain Max, I have set the trajectory for Siesta 3 jump. It will take us 3 days to enter hyperspace. Shall I initiate?
Well, is no one going into cryo?
Good question. I was going to ask, when you say four
Days?
days in the jump, I can spend those 4 days in the lab trying to figure this out, right?
You can.
Oh, but I'm waiting for the information, so I should get into cryo to freeze the. Yeah, okay, cryo for me.
Slow it down, right? If you stayed out, you would, know
Die.
how many days it would be for you to be infectious, so you count that clock. Click, click. If you go into cryo, it will slow it down even further, but you could stay there indefinitely, but it would. Captain Harm, do you go in cryo?
Probably, yeah. He doesn't need his sanity questioned.
Right? Okay. So, Oni and Harm strip down, do their cryo procedure, which is really setting your gear up, packing away your clothes. You're really left with bare essentials or nothing when you get into cryo, and the cryo bays tilt down, you sit in them, you lay back and put the button and lay back, and the cryo pod does its thing and puts you to sleep into cryo sleep. The Mr. Tim sets the jump to Siesta 3 and you enter hyperspace. Captain Max, were you going to do something specific?
I'm not going to play chess. I know that. We've already been down that road. I think Max is going to go down to the break room and probably
Make bread?
muffins and just kind of steer out of viewport and sip on any kind of alcohol he can find, even though it doesn't do anything, but just try to gather a plan of how to get
Okay.
out of this.
You could probably make a sanity check, I think, to relieve stress. That's how it works. And if you beat your sanity check, you reduce your stress by the 1's unit. No.
No. We'll go the shot.
The weight of everything, Captain Max, is just laid on you, even though you're an android. God forbid you were actually human. And you spend those probably 3-4 days just ruminating. You know, every now and then mother's voice pipes in, and it's almost this happy, look at us, look what we've done. We sent our eggs out into the universe, and you're just thinking about the artifacts and the eggs and bioweapon and just one after another thing, and it's just you get no rest for an android. Like it just goes, it loops like in your processor just as fast as possible for the whole 4 days.
He's having a kernel panic.
Yeah, they're like, what happens in the game though?
And you don't relieve any stress.
What about the rest of us? When we go into cryo, do we get to roll?
I think you could roll body. Like I would say that you could roll a body save and see
that's like my worst.
see if you relieve stress. Usually you don't. Usually you're asleep. I think you get stress reduction. You roll your body save, and then if you don't succeed, you could take at least 2 stress off for being in cryo.
So are we able to parlay some sort of bonus from one of our perhaps inherent skills to the body save?
How would that play?
Perhaps go into a meditative state before going into cryo, so that whatever functions are in my head while I'm in cryo can, in fact, sort of be more relaxing.
Sure. I think if you did that, Oni, that you would make a fear with mysticism save.
Fear,
like right? Like you have this bioweapon inside you. You're trying to control it. You're trying to get into this meditative state. So it's more of is the fear overcoming, and you're trying to use mysticism to relinquish the fear. But I think it would be a fear and mysticism save.
Okay, so again, it's been a few weeks. So I check beside mysticism, check beside the box, and then roll fear.
No, you roll fear, click fear, and then select mysticism.
See. Yeah. I just didn't want to do anything by mistake. And rolling normal. Ooh, look at that roll.
Oh, so you reduce 7 stress. So you reduce the amount of stress in the ones unit, Oni. How does that happen? Like that's a fair amount of. That's pretty darn good stress reduction.
He has a lucid dream of interacting with Dr. Rizal, and Dr. Rizal is providing him clues to the production of the bioweapon that he did, so that Oni may be able to.
Okay, you use your mysticism to perhaps in a dream state.
Yes.
Relive those moments you were with Dr. Rizal, maybe the small moments, whatever he was nattering on about and the words he was using. Maybe you can relive parts of it.
And unconsciously fabricate this environment and that interaction. Okay. So just basically just go under stress and subtract 7?
Yep, just subtract 7.
Okay.
Harm. You probably see Oni get himself together somehow, or maybe he has a particular mantra or thing he does when he's doing that, getting his mind set to go into cryo. Does Harm do anything to help himself enter cryo?
He'll probably do what he does best and kind of try to do military tactics in his head and just kind of plan what would I do in what situation, I guess.
What should I have done on the planet? How should I take it out those 5 guys? Does he reach for the cigarette pack he found, or is he holding off still?
He's holding off on it until he absolutely needs it, but he is planning on again. What?
Okay, I think that's a sanity plus military training check. You're going through your mind and going through that process of thinking about how to do that. How should I approach that? How would I have done that? That sort of thing.
Okay, let's see how poorly I do on this.
Ooh, no, critical fail.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Why is that, Harm? It got to you. Did the old man get to you? Something got to you. What got to you?
Yeah, the old man, I forget what comment it was, but it was one of the comments he made about the not being able to propperly protect or something. The rest of his crew kind of got to him, and so he's fuck. Like, how do I not make the same mistake?
Okay, so Oni and Harm transit hyperspace in cryo. Captain Max just perseverates over what needs to be done, how to get things done, and just this never-ending loop. And you exit hyperspace. You're pinged automatically, Mr. Tim, as cryo bays open for Oni and Harm, and they tumble out of their cryo or step out of it. You can make body save to see if you're not cryo sick. Mr. Tim's voice hails over the intercom. Ping automated station W TAC 900 CJ TAC 45 has been reached. Siesta 3, we are being hailed immediately. If someone can come to the pilot house, please. I don't know what to tell them.
Quick question. For my body save, would I be able to add military training for it since I'd be able to, like, since I'm used to it?
Yeah, I think we had decided that you
Okay.
and
It's been a couple weeks, so, like, I just wanted to make sure.
right, and yeah, that's fine. Both of you succeed. Oni's restful reliving of those events with Dr. Rizal, or putting himself into a planned sleep endeavor. You know, you exit cryo refreshed without cryo sleep. And Harm has just done this so many times that it's just like brushing his teeth. If he brushes his teeth, I don't know if he brushes his teeth, but just like brushing his teeth. And you both exit cryo without cryo sickness. You probably hear Mr. Tim's, just the end of that sentence where Mr. Tim is informing Captain Max that automated station W TAC 900 Charlie Juliet TAC 45 has been reached, and that you're being hailed and he needs someone in the pilot house. Captain Max, what do you do? Mr. Tim's voice hails over the intercom. Ping automated station W TAC 900 CJ TAC 45 has been reached. Siesta 3, we are being hailed immediately. If someone can come to the pilot house, please. I don't know what to tell them.
Quick question. For my body save, would I be able to add military training for it since I'd be able to, like, since I'm used to it?
Yeah, I think we had decided that you
Okay.
and
It's been a couple weeks, so, like, I just wanted to make sure.
right, and yeah, that's fine. Both of you succeed. Oni's restful reliving of those events with Dr. Rizal, or putting himself into a planned sleep endeavor. You know, you exit cryo refreshed without cryo sleep. And Harm has just done this so many times that it's just like brushing his teeth. If he brushes his teeth, I don't know if he brushes his teeth, but just like brushing his teeth. And you both exit cryo without cryo sickness. You probably hear Mr. Tim's, just the end of that sentence where Mr. Tim is informing Captain Max that automated station W TAC 900 Charlie Juliet TAC 45 has been reached, and that you're being hailed and he needs someone in the pilot house. Captain Max, what do you do? I think you're muted.
I guess I'll go to the pilot house.
Okay. You see the screen, and Mr. Tim says, Captain Max, we are being hailed by another ship. You can see the station in front of you, Siesta 3. I'll show you a picture of it. You can see it. It has this kind of faded green star logistics logo on the front. It looks like it's been painted over with graffiti, and out the port. And Mr. Tim looks at Captain Max and says, Captain Max, we are being hailed. Shall I put them through? Or do you wish to collect yourself? You look stressed. Are you stressed? You were sitting in the galley for 2 days straight. What were you drinking?
Whiskey, Mr. Tim.
Whiskey? Why would you drink whiskey? You can't get drunk.
It's more of just a meditation method, I guess, than the actual getting drunk.
Oh, that doesn't sound reasonable. But shall I put them through?
Yes, please, Mr. Tim.
You hear someone like Mr. Tim like puts through audio like in the middle of a sentence. Are they torpedo locked? Yes, quickly now. Come on, let's go. Move. Oh, hey, this is the Black Rose. Please identify yourself.
This is the Bishop Gambit.
I'm Swike. I'm the commander. Who am I talking to? Are you part of corporation? Oh, what are you carrying? How many crew? What's in your cargo hold? Quickly now, quickly. He talks really fast, like this kind of high pitch, like you can't even answer, get it worded, like what question after another and after another and after another. Come on now, man.
There is nothing in our cargo hold. We are a crew of 3.
3. What is your purpose at Siesta 3? Are you working for the corporation?
No.
No corporation. We like the corporations.
No.
No. How do I know if you're telling me the truth?
Because in about 6 months, we're going to have a bounty from a corporation.
Really? Well, don't worry about it. I've been on a bounty for 15 months and 3 days, 6 hours and 42 seconds. They haven't caught me yet.
Well, that's
Which
reassuring.
corporation has you on a bounty?
The Nakitomi Corp.
Oh, well, it's nice knowing you. You must have done something really bad. I mean, Nakitomi Corp bounty. How much do they want for you? Well, you know, just in a roundabout fashion. Is it a lot?
What was his words? More
It'll
than
be enough. It'll be enough that nobody will turn it down.
Yeah.
Was his words.
Something that any self-respecting bounty hunter would never turn down. Something along the lines of that, I do believe.
Well, my first cousin's that's just terrible. Are you going to ride a tether or are you going to get some work done? You want to go portside, dry dock?
Gonna get some work done. Portside, dry dock, please.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let them know you're coming.
You should ask about the fees first, just to make sure that we've got enough.
Are there any docking fees?
Well, just depends on what kind of work you need to be done. If you're staying long term, it's about 500 credits a day.
I guess depending on what repairs we do, typically take about a day, day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah, it depends on what you have installed. They usually take longer. Weapon system, if it's something small or if it's just fixture up, you're talking a couple days. Not that you have 50 million credits.
But do we? That's the thing. Or are they counterfeit?
Right. Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to plant that idea if you didn't think of that.
Vasco will be waiting for you. Just be careful. Don't hit the sides. You're a good driver, right?
Mr. Tim is our driver, and he is a great one.
Well, that's good. I knew a Mr. Tim once. Anyways, this is the Black Rose out. Nice to meet you, and hopefully you won't be dead in 6 months. It'll be my secret.
Appreciate it. I hope to see you in 6 months.
All right, Black Rose out. I'll see you if I come inside, but I'm patrolling now. There's 5 other ships on tether, and then he clicks out, and Mr. Sim says, "Wow, that was unexpected. They've dropped torpedo lock and are now scouting the other 5 ships on tether. Shall I take us in?"
Please, Mr. Tim, if you will.
Okay. Captain Harm and Oni, as Max is up in the pilot house, did you join him or did you do other things?
I should go to the fan room.
Okay.
Actually, no, I should talk to Max because he's Max. Yes, Max. You're going to be interfacing with the for lack of a better word, the dynamic network node.
I can, unless somebody else wants to.
I have no skills in this regard, so.
Harm is only good for one thing.
Yeah.
And that is not it.
I don't know.
A real jarhead.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, or he will. I will.
Okay. So Mr. Tim pilots you into the docking bay and shuts down the engines, and you just kind of drift in. The docking doors open as you get in within proximity, and then close back down. And then this huge kind of mechanical arm grabs the ship from above and takes control. You feel it like shake you all around. You're looking at through the viewport, and there's about 9 other ships in dry dock or in these kind of held positions. And this huge arm just kind of transits around and docks you. You can see that there's like 2 walkways on either side of this huge kind of container area where the ships are. There is no atmosphere, because you do notice like maybe one person working on the whole of a ship in full evac, and maybe on one of the walkways you see a group moving towards doors at the far end. They're still wearing their helmet and evac suits, and you're roughly brought into the docking bay. Mr. Tim, opens up comms and says, Bishop Gambit has been docked against Siesta 3. We're in berth 13. That's a terrible number, isn't it?
It is very unlucky.
It is a prime number. It is a good number.
That's what I would think. Be positive, Mr. Max. What worse can go wrong?
If something did go wrong at this point, Mr. Tim, I would just add it to the list.
What's the plan, captains? We're at the Anarchist commune. This feels like fun. I can't remember if I've ever been here before. It's like going back to church.
Have you ever been to church, Mr. Tim?
No, I don't think I have. Well, I haven't been anywhere but this ship. And that was a few weeks before we hit the albino gorilla. And then we left there because of the plague. But I don't remember much past then. There wasn't a church on the albino gorilla. Let me check system settings. Oh, there seems to be a temple here. I wonder if I could go there. I would have to sneak into the system, electrically transport myself.
Mr. Tim, we are not here to get in any trouble. I think
It wasn't my fault.
what's the word?
Captain Harm was the one who asked me if I ever went to church, insinuating that I should go.
I think
That
the
was
word,
not the intent, Mr. Tim. It was merely curiosity.
Have you gone to church, Mr. Captain Harm? I mean, this temple looks pretty nice. It's the Alpha and Omega.
I have not been to a religious house in quite a while.
Don't Marines have a shrine? Some patron saint?
Well, it's been a bit since I've left the Marines.
Oh, right. After that, discharge. Well, if you go in, please keep your cameras on and your local units. Maybe leave your comm units to feed so I can live vicariously through everyone.
Of course, Mr. Tim.
Captain Oni, are you going ashore? Isn't that proper word?
I am not. I need to maintain quarantine and try to figure out some way to overcome the infectious agent that Dr. Rizal has created.
Oh, that's terrible. You will have no fun. Maybe we can have fun together.
I will have to have fun vicariously through your experiences.
Do you know how to play chess?
I think I will be busy.
Go? How about Go? You look like you play Go.
Perhaps when I need a break, we can do that.
All right.
Yes, I wouldn't play him in chess, Oni. He's quite the shark.
Well, a conduit has been attached to the topside main airlock if Captain's Harm and Max are going ashore.
Yeah. I'm gonna. I'll actually. Oni, if you think of anything you need while we're down there, or anything that can help with your research, please feel free to let us know.
How well appointed did Dr. Rizal make his jury-rigged lab?
Well, seeing as you failed.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you for that reminder.
It is bare bones. It was make do. Heck, Captain Harm probably said have a better shot than that. But Marines know what to do. Like they fly things that are gonna drop out of the sky anyways. But yeah, it's bare bones.
Okay. Fellow captains, what say you to perhaps figuring out a way to acquire access to a medical lab, perhaps off hours, aboard the station. Other words, breaking into a lab. Do you think that would be something that would be on the quest list, or should we just try to make do aboard the ship and try to access the information of Dr. Rizal's work?
I would like to maintain a somewhat low profile on this station, as just to opposed to something else to add on the list. But maybe we can go to the medical bay and see what they have, or maybe try to convince them into letting us use a lab of some sorts.
So plan B then. I think the first thing is to access the network, download the information about the ship that stole the artifacts. Well, they didn't really steal the artifacts, you have to admit. Sorry, but also when you access,
stole very loosely.
Yeah. So when you crack into the network, to follow them up, get a lead on them. At the same point, Mr. Tim should be able to access Dr. Rizal's files, or try to access Dr. Rizal's files.
We can do that.
Okay.
I would like to ask, what exactly do we want to get fixed on the Bishop's Gambit before we leave the dock?
Yes, another list of things that need to be fixed.
Where do you start?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with that. At some point, I would like to go to a medical bay because I do have a wound. My shoulder's still fucked. So,
I forgot about that.
First things first, before we leave the dock, where do we start with the fixing?
Well,
Integrity, engines, life support. Oh, ask Mr. Tim what should be prioritized.
yeah, Mr. Tim, will you give me a rundown of all the ship's primary functions that need attention?
Captain Max, are you making another joke that I just don't seem to get? I will compile a list. If you can give me 28 hours, I will have all the itemized necessities.
Can you make that list in from most urgent to least urgent, please?
Right. I will get right on it. I'm trying to remember.
There was a bunch.
Yeah. Main hull, OSHA things, and
The lights are probably the last thing that need to be
Right.
fixed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
green lights. Yeah.
Captain Max, I would think it seems that we're going hunting for pirates.
Yes.
You do know that we are a weaponless ship, and our hull is rated at 1 out of 5. Are you going to hunt pirates with guile? We might need to repair that too, I think.
With my charisma, I was hoping, or lack thereof.
He recommends not messing with the OSHA, but perhaps considering increased hull integrity and a jankily applied weapon of some nature, external torpedo tube or something of that nature. If you're going to go hunt pirates.
What if, well, I guess we'll actually have to go aboard the station to figure out how much all that's going to cost.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll look at the Shipbreaker's toolkit, and it has prices, and I'll give you a list of prices, but we'll role play through that, and then go from there, okay?
All right, well then Captain Max will look at Harm and say, well, how about a little shopping?
Captain Harm, are you ready to go shopping with Captain Max?
Well, I have nothing else to do, and I don't know how much I want to stay in the way of other people working on the ship.
Captain Harm, are you going to go to church for me? I can be there serendipitously through you. Is that the right word, Sarah? I got to check my verbal servers.
I will go check it out at some point so you can get a proper tour.
So Captain Max and Harm dress out in their evac suits with helmets and board the station, I guess.
I will say, I think Max is feeling, even with all of everything that's happened, he's never had this much money before. So he is a little kind of giddy, like kid in a candy
Do
shop.
you take that with you, or you take a little bit with you, or you take the whole bag of 50 million credits?
Seeing how this place is a little shady, probably just not gonna take any of it with me, just to get a feel for how much everything is, what we're gonna need, and then go back and purchase everything and
Okay.
send it directly to the vendors or wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, Mr. Tim informs you that once the ship is docked, they have a hard line into finances, and if you plug in a credit stick, they're just automatically deducted.
Yeah, because this strikes me as the kind of place where you don't go around flashing 50 million credits.
Okay. So Captain Max and Harm leave the ship. You go out through the topside airlock, and you're in a small space that's this conduit that creates a little bit of a secondary airlock. So you open your airlock, but you're still in atmosphere. You close your airlock, and then you open up the other airlock, which leads out into the berthing of the docking bay. The docking bay you're on this kind of long catwalk on the right side, and way across you see other ships that are also docked in these kind of huge bays that are held there by these mechanical arms. And the whole inside has been tagged with graffiti. You see a Green Star Logistics logo that's been scratched out and then re-tagged and tagged a couple times with eyes and tongues and all sorts of stuff. But the whole place is this colorful kind of amount of tags and painting that's in. You go walking down that catwalk, and you see a couple figures in the distance. There's a group next to another ship. It has a big Green Star logo painted on it that looks relatively pristine. And you see a group, about 4 individuals, pushing around someone else who's got like a rivet gun strapped to his back and a worn kind of evac suit. And that figure is just kind of posted up. You can sort of hear the chatter through their comms as they're all wearing helmets and vacuum. What does Harm and Captain Max do?
I'm not gonna do anything. Low profile. That is head down, blinders on. Just
All right. Captain Harm, do you do anything? You see this ruckus happening. You got to transit past him on this narrow walkway. Way in the distance, you see another airlock that probably leads into the interior of the Siesta 3 autonomous zone. Does Captain Max kind of puts his head down, doesn't want to get involved? Does Captain Harm do anything?
He'll kind of just look at Max quickly, sigh, and be like, probably a smart decision, and just keep going.
Okay. As you guys try to keep your heads down, you see this figure in kind of worn Teamster evac pull this huge wrench off his back and just hit one of them. Crack! They're all wearing Green Star logoed evac suits, and he hits this one right across his helmet, spins him around, and then kicks him almost over the railing. The other 3 back off, and you hear him shouting at him about corporations. Back on your ship, or do your work when necessary. And then he kind of looks and stomps towards you. Damn it. Is that your ship over there you just came off of?
yes, it is.
I'm Vasco. I'm in charge of the hangar bay. You're dry dock. What do you need? You need repairs? Your engine fouling?
Yes, we are in need of some repairs to the hull and maybe some munitions.
Munitions? He goes, that's a B-7 class freighter. That was made about 53 years ago. I haven't seen one of those for a while. There's no torpedo bay or munitions on that thing. What do you mean, munitions?
And that's the problem.
Oh. You want to outfit it. Black market.
Yes.
Well, I got something that works 30% of the time. I got something that works 60% of the time. And I got something that works 75% of the time. How deep's your pocket? Do you want it just for show? Like you have it there and they pick it up, or you want it to actually work?
I would like it to actually work.
Well, is that 60% of the time or 75?
I need it to work 75% of the time, all the time.
Right. Well, that'd take me about a week. I got a module. I'll put it on there. And what do you mean about your hole? You got a leak? Your bay door is broken?
No, it's more than a bay door.
Well, are you gapping to vacuum? Come on now, speak up. What do you know?
To do a full hull rebuild and maybe increase the integrity of it.
How long are you going to be here? 3 months? 6 months?
Whatever you can do in a week.
A week? I could put the fire unit on there for a week, but the whole work, that's a couple weeks at least.
What about a quick fix?
He looks at you, shakes your head. You don't work on things much now, do you? Maybe you
No.
should get the 30% thing.
No, I typically pay somebody to work on things for me.
That would be me. That can't be done. If you want to increase the rating by that hole, it takes at least 3 weeks. I got to put new fenders on it. I got to put new walls in it. I got to upgrade its integrity. I mean, look, this is Siesta 3 autonomous zone. He looks around and kind of waves. It's all tagged and colored and painted everywhere. And he goes, I mean, it's not like you're on a home world. You'd be better off stealing that Green Star ship.
But do we want a bounty?
I don't know. I don't think anybody's gonna put a bounty out here. This place,
He pauses
especially
for
if it's a corpo ship.
He pauses for a minute and turns his head a little bit. Goes, "That was a joke. Are you actually thinking about stealing the ship?"
No, of course not. We're not
All right.
criminals, of course.
Well, I'm Bosco. I will get the price up. I'll see what I can do, and I'll give you a time frame for a whole. It ain't gonna be a rebuild. This is a patch up. I mean, you got a B4 class freighter there. It's 53 years old. It looks rough. Well, it might be older. Heck.
Well,
He kind of peers out and he goes, "Well, I'm gonna have to climb aboard. That's weird. That flare right there shouldn't be on that ship."
wait a minute. Out of character, I just thought of something. We have a biological weapon on the ship. They're going to have to enter the ship.
You see him doing hull work. Like you see, like there's a couple other people doing hull work. Bosco's in charge of the hangar bay. You see a couple other people doing hull work. They're in evac and tethered and magnetic suits on the outside. They probably eventually have to enter, but you ask Bosco if he needs to enter the ship to put on a torpedo unit?
And I left all the money on the ship. Unsupervised. And I may be thinking just metagaming here, but I mean, this is a sketchy place. Didn't take it with me. It's on the ship. I'll tell Bosco, do you think you'll need to enter the ship for the repairs in this 75% of the time working?
Well, your ship looks weird, but there's probably an external pop I can go through to connect it to something. Maybe a lateral booster. You're going to have to remove something, but just to connect it to the ship and get it to the mainframe, and then your ship's AI can do everything else. Most of the whole work is just, well, lots of welding, lots of manufacturing. It's like putting on makeup. You don't need to go inside to do that.
What about the torpedo?
Yeah, it's like, putting one of those condenser coolers on your window if you live in a dry environment.
Okay, that'll work. Appreciate it, Bosco.
All right, I'll give you a time frame and some money, and if you go that way, he points down the hall. Maybe you rough up those guys as you go. Well, maybe not, because they're mean anyways. Darn corporations. I don't know why they're here. We're gonna have to do something about them, I think. But you go through that door, and that's the dry dock. And then, if you want, Koba's little shack is to the left, but you got to go straight, and then through the airlocks to the praxis bar.
Is there anywhere
You're looking for anything in particular?
Weapons, ammo, and a med bay.
Well, the med bay is through the praxis bar, right past bioscanners. On the first floor, you probably want to go to the hydro hut where Dr. Adams is.
That'll work.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Vasco. Give me, whenever you get you a list of prices together, send it over and I will be back with you after that.
All right. And, you're a Marine here. they could probably find out some good stuff at the Black Sky.
Very
Well,
helpful.
that's another bar through the Praxis on the main level. You go left around the hallway, past the Dr. Adams Hydro Hut and the Capsule Hotel, and well, you could go to the Rowan Gengenium bar too, where Quanda is. There's a lot of Black Ops guys in there all the time, I think.
What about the church? Where is it located?
Well, they don't have any weapons.
Just curiosity.
Well, Father Cambrian, he's kind of weird. You know, that Alpha Omega thing where, everything's the same. Whether you're AI, no offense, sounds like you're an AI, but an android. But whether you're an AI or an android or a biologic, you're all one kind of species, and you can cohabitate and be in each other's minds. You know that Alpha Omega stuff. I don't really buy it, but Father Cambrian's there.
We'll be sure to check it out.
Okay.
And I think we'll go. Or we needed a hard line too, as well, right?
The ship can be hardlined. Yeah, like interconnect anyways.
Need to be, or is it just automatically done?
Yeah, like the ship and Oni and Captain Oni and Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim may have to work at trying to make that hardline work with Oni. But so you guys go down through the dry dock. You're going to transition into this kind of smaller dry dock for like shuttles, and there's like a airlock door that's open to vent, which this kind of neonish sign above it that says Cobas on to the left. It's still in kind of the vacuum, and then up in front of you is airlock doors that says welcome to Siesta 3 Praxis Bar, and there's like 2 airlock doors on the right and left, and that's what you see as you walk up. Captain Oni, as they leave the ship, Mr. Tim says, well, guess it's just you and me.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Tim. Oni is hopeful that Captain Max will be able to hack into the network so that you may be able to patch in yourself and pull out Dr. Rizal's files.
Is he going to let me know when he does that? Send me a secret message? Will it be a cipher? I like ciphers.
I'm not sure whether he will have access to a cipher, but do you have comms with Captain Max currently as he...
Sure, we have shortwave.
Okay. Then you can ask him yourself. Make those arrangements. Meanwhile, do you have any insights into Dr. Rizal's actions while he was aboard the ship then? Not external files, but perhaps something that he was up to that may provide assistance with the work that we're doing.
Well, Captain Oni, he wasn't here very long, and I'm not a really good judge of humans.
Okay.
He seemed a little bit, I don't know, he made some, well, that's hard to put, because there is Max. He's made some, it seems like he is acting just like anyone else.
Fair enough. I shall continue then with lab work.
Okay.
I think, did we get at least one save or one roll? Remember you wanted us to roll 5 in a row or something?
Yeah,
like
you needed like 3 successes, but you got like a single one. I think if Oni is going to just try to slog away at it all by himself, he could make a intellect and maybe field medicine at disfavor.
So okay.
It's going to be so at disadvantage, I would say.
Yeah, that's what you meant, I thought.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Okay. So click on intellect, add my field medicine, and disadvantage.
Right.
Should I do that now, or should I do that?
Well, I figure you're working through the day as Captain Max and Harm are entering the station.
That doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's like complete disarray, Odie. Like the lab probably still smells like Captain Rizal or Dr. Rizal. You know, that kind of
sickness smell. Yeah.
Yeah, the sharp, bitter tang of infectivity and biohazard as you're trying to work. Plus, you've got those tubes with you and the hypodermic needle, and you kind of put that all back that you were going to use as a weapon, and there's just not enough stuff. It's a bare bones lab, and you try to go back steps, try to repeat steps, and Oni just doesn't make much headway as he works on this all day long as Captain Max and Harm are entering the station.
So how will this mechanic work? I mean, I know I need 3. Are there so Dr. Rizal died because of the failures of these rolls?
Right, you didn't find a cure before he died. Mechanically, he pushed it, and he started to have successive symptoms from the bioweapon, so he started dropping each of his stats. He was taking disadvantage for this one and then that one the next day, and so he started to fail as he was infected. You're still in this cascade. You're still in this incubation period. You're day 2. You got 4 days of incubation before that starts to affect you. But you're just not making headway on it. And the reason he failed is he was pushing it because he knew it was getting worse and worse. And he used too many stim packs. And
Right.
right.
Okay.
For you, Oni, you watched them stim pack himself a couple of times. And one of those times it did help him succeed. If you ever think about using a stim pack, it just lasts. And I made it last a little bit longer. It will just take away that disadvantage. You would roll it straight, the next day. If Oni starts to get pressured, those stim packs will stay. He hasn't used one yet at the moment, but Dr. Rizal used 3, and then he rolled a 1 anyways, and so he had failed. And as soon as you fail your stim pack roll, then you immediately make a death save.
Okay.
But it's only after you use a certain amount, though, right?
Anytime.
Oh, it's anytime. Okay, I thought
Right.
he OD'd on stim packs.
Well, he did 3, but when he did his stim pack check, he rolled a 1.
Yeah.
So you got to roll over it. If you roll under it, then you make an immediate death save. I typically don't have you roll your first one like when you come out of cryo to decrease cryo sickness. It's just when you wear, if you use it again. So Captains Harm and Max, you transit up to the dry dock shuttle area. You got this kind of corner store still in vacuum with a neon sign called Koba's. And then in front of you, the 2 airlock doors leading to the Praxis bar. What do you all do?
I think Max is going to try to find a med bay, just to maybe get in touch with somebody about a biological weapon.
Okay.
And maybe get some information on what Oni might need or anything that might help,
All right. So that means you go through the airlock to the Praxis bar, because the main part of the station is into the Praxis bar. You go through a double set of airlocks into the main station, and you'd have to go that direction really to find medbay, or through this greeting of Siesta 3. Max makes a beeline to the airlock doors to Praxis bar. Do you follow, or you do something else?
I'll follow because my shoulder's still fucked, and I
Okay.
probably want to get that fixed.
All right. So you go through dry dock, which is this looming kind of mechanical arms that are smaller but moving around shuttle ships. You've already met Vasco, who runs the dock, and had an altercation with a Green Star logistics ship that he seems a bit jumpy about. And you see a couple other Teamsters, or at least Siesta 3 crew, working on the exterior of other ships. You go through the double lock doors and you enter the dockside bar, which is called the Praxis. It looks like it's a converted maintenance room, or was a maintenance room. There's these overhead conduits and fan rooms and this kind of long metal bar. There's a a fairly large man behind the bar bartending. You hear this kind of clinking of music from a black-haired thin man sitting on a kind of chair, makeshift stage. There's a lot of din. A lot of the crew that come into Siesta 3 never really enter the station. They just come to the bar, eat and drink, go back to their ship. They don't want to spend as much money. And there's a dog off to the left, just giant kind of hairy mongrel laying underneath a table, really. Kind of looks up at you with his tongue half out of his mouth and puts it back down. Harm, as you come through the bar with Max, you look at the bar and do a double take, or maybe you keep it together and you just track it and recognize it. There's a man standing drinking at the bar in clothes that he wasn't in when you first met him, but you'll be damned if you're not sure it's the captain of the attack Arma 9 ship that gave the bioweapon, that was given the bioweapon from Dr. Rizal. He's sitting at the bar. You're almost positive it is him, but he looks like to be wearing these old Teamster outfit. He's got like a square glass with some brown liquid on the rocks, and he seems to be laughing with the bartender. You track him immediately. His back is towards you. You see the side of his face. Captain Max, through the praxis bar, this engineering space maintenance room that's been turned over to the bar of the greeting for the dock, there's one giant airlock, and just stenciled above it, it says bile containment, enter and be checked. Captain Harm, what do you do?
Good question. I would probably, like, as we're walking, kind of just like out of the corner of my eye, kind of keep an eye on the bar. But I guess just like, I'm assuming the airlock is closed, yeah?
Yeah, so the praxis bar, like, you come through this double set of airlocks to get into the praxis bar, and then you're within atmosphere. Everyone doesn't have a helmet on. Everyone in there is wearing just regular clothes. There's like lockers where you could put your evac suits in and your helmet, you know, for your evac suit, along the one front edge of the maintenance. So everyone in there is just in regular clothes. They're not wearing some of them may be just wearing their evac suit because they don't want to take it off. You know, they're drinking and gambling, but they don't have their helmets on. They're like up on hooks along the edge of the front end of the bar that leads out. You're in atmosphere, so no one's wearing a helmet at all. You guys probably take off your helmet. If you don't take off your helmet, that's going to look weird.
Well, Max doesn't never have to wear a helmet, though, right? Because he's an android.
Vacuumless space? Yeah, I guess not. Like, you would wear it because it's cold. You could freeze.
Well, yeah.
So you have to wear an evac suit not because you need to breathe, but because the temperature is too low.
Okay.
Right. So, Harm, I see you guys come into that space and probably ditch your helmet in a locker. It's probably one of those ones that you take the key itself, you know, like you're at a train station. You're looking at the bar. Do you do anything else?
I'm glad you said it was a key, because I was definitely going to try to sabotage those evac suits from that guy.
I mean, if I'm getting checked out, I might not want to be in the evac suit.
Sure, you're gonna have to take it off anyways if you go to med bay.
Yeah. So I'll probably take off the evac suit to like put it in the locker and then take the key.
Sure. So you ditch your evac suits and helmets, and you're kind of walking through the practice bar. The bartender says, "Hey, I'm Omar. Can I get you anything?" And about that time, the man who you've met that Dr. Rizal turned over the bioweapon to just kind of looks at you and smiles, Captain Harm, but his eyes are just flat dead. You look at his eyes, the smile only goes about this far, but the eyes are just flat. You've been reading a long time. You know that kind of look from anywhere. Like, the smile on his face is just there for show. He looks at you, but doesn't seem to do anything else. But his eyes are completely flat. What does Harm do?
He'll probably just nod and then go about his business, going to med bay.
Okay.
Just yeah, like I'll acknowledge you, but then pretend like I don't haven't met you because you were an unlisted ship or whatever. So like I'd rather just be like pretend you don't exist.
Okay.
We haven't met, whatever. Like just do it.
Captain Max, Harm, and you ditch your evac suit and helmets in the appropriate, locker. You go transiting through Praxis. Omar, the bartender, yells at you if you want a drink. What does Captain Max do? Are you just going to biocontainment and into the interior of the station?
Yeah. Max is a man on a mission.
Okay.
Like I said, low profile, in and out. Just don't want to cause any more problems than
All right.
already had.
So Max, you go into the airlock. It's a double airlock. Because it used to be a maintenance, so it's 2 airlock doors. You got to open one and get in and close it and open the other. And Harm is entering behind you. And just as Harm is about to close it, this hand wraps around the edge.
Oh, this guy.
And it opens. And Harm, he steps through. And he goes, I got it. I'll get the door. And as he's closing the door, Harm, you hear gunfire. And he goes, hell, that didn't sound good. He turns to the wheel. We better close this up. Go on, open that door. Who knows what's going on back there? Some people probably just were gambling too hard. You know how it is. Sir, can you open the door? Can you open the other door?
If you're not gonna do it, I will.
Max is going to open the other door.
Max has no idea who this is. I don't think. Harm's the only one who's seen him when he was with when he was with Dr. Rizal turning over the bioweapon. He's dressed as a Teamster. His Teamster clothes are kind of dirty, and wrung out and threaded. He's got regular old beaten up boots, but his visage is pristine. Like his hair is high and tight gray, down close to the sides. He looks weathered. Looks like he knows his job, Max. And you open up that door to biocontainment. There's 2 men in evac suits with their helmets on, and they hold out their hands and said, okay, everyone line up over there and we'll do a scan. Make sure you don't bring anything onto the station.
Yes, but you may want to check Praxis and check on, was it Omar?
Why is that?
There was some gunfire coming from
Gunfire? Oh, hell. All right, we're tell Dan and Benny, hey, go get him. There's some, altercation happening in the Praxis again. Probably, who knows? Like, it happens once a week or so. It's probably nothing.
Yes, as long as you're sure it's nothing, then I'm sure it is.
Okay. Well, up along the side.
Max will get on the side.
The man with you goes, damn, I hate these cavity searches, scanning. I'm good to go. And you hear he goes, sir, just step back against the wall. We'll do our scan. They go down with this little wand. Well, you're an android. I don't think you could be sick. And he taps you on the chest. All right, on the way through. Then he looks at Captain Harm, says, you there? What's your name?
Harm.
Harm? That's kind of funny. Is that a name you chose by yourself? Your mama named you that.
My mama named me that.
Oh.
Real irony on that one.
That's terrible. Well, I mean, that's okay, I guess. And you just start scanning you. Did she name your sister Holy? Oh, you're clean. On you go. Tap you on the shoulder.
Thank you.
He goes, you guys are going to leave Med Bay. You hear some discussion behind you with the man that followed you in, which Harm knows. Do you do anything as you leave?
Would I be able to do like a roll to see since we were in the airlock with him, if Harm seemed like on edge or something with him being there?
I don't know. You could do that. It's up to Harm somewhat whether he would think you would notice or not. But I don't mind that kind of inter-character role. It would be a flat intellect, though.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll leave it up to you, Harm. Did he rattle? How much did he rattle you?
I think that you would probably be able to recognize that something was off, but not necessarily like gather exactly like how affected Harm would be by it. But you would be able to tell that like something happened to the guy.
I'll try it out. Why not?
Yeah, Harm probably tries to hide it. You know something's off a little bit, but but then when you like look at Harm, maybe you see Harm's eyes flick back to that guy involuntarily. Perhaps Harm, something about him that you're keeping an eye on him a little bit closer than usual for Harm. You're a little bit more vigilant, perhaps. Max, Harm seems a little bit more vigilant. What does Max do with that information?
Harm, are you okay? You seem to be keeping an unusual eye on the man that entered the airlock with us.
Yes. You do remember that situation that I went and dealt with Dr. Rizal?
Yes.
He happened to be involved.
The man we gave the weapon to, right?
Correct. Yes.
And and that's him, undoubtedly, like without a doubt.
Correct.
Captain Max, as you're like probably have to turn around to ask questions for Harm, you're moving away from being scanned. You see him like tuck something in the guy's belt, and you see the guy nod, and no wand happens. No wanding at all. And he like pats him on his evac suit, gives him a thumbs up, and starts to catch up to you all.
Well, it does appear that he has a little bit more pull around here than most folks, and he is tagging along.
It appears so, yes.
Oni, you're working away in the lab, and Mr. Tim comes on the intercom. Captain Oni, there seems to be some sort of development happening in the hangar bay. But as the ship's AI, I'm not really certain because I'm not human, and the human behavior is kind of confusing, which is why I had Captain Max try to teach me humor and joking. But I was wondering if you could come up to the pilot house and tell me there's nothing to be alarmed at.
Certainly. I shall be up there immediately.
So you leave the fan room and you walk forward, go past the cryo bay, sneak past the galley, and you smell fresh bread. But at this point, you probably ignore it. and you...
I may have lost my sense of smell.
Right? You don't smell it. You look into the galley and there's this fresh loaf of bread and you're like, but you can't smell it at all. And you think, uh-oh, maybe I'm not in incubation anymore. And you take the 3 steps up to the pilot house and the open airlock door and you see the pilot's chair and some blinking lights and the viewport is open and the hyperspace blast doors shield is open, and you can see out into the wide hangar. You see a number of ships. Some are being worked on. You see some sparks here and there. It's pretty well lit, really, because it's a functional repair hangar. What you do is you get to the pilot house.
So Mr. Tim, what seems to be the problem?
Well, at the port side tramway,
Yes?
you see that ship there that looks like it's a routine large number shuttle.
I'm not familiar with that ship chassis myself, but yes.
Right. It looks like it, but it's not it. And 8 people in dark evac suits have just left it and are moving quickly down the portside tramway towards the station.
Do I recognize these particular suits from ones that I've encountered? Are they the dark ops?
He kind of like goes, I'll show you a visual. And he it comes a grainy out little picture in black and white, and they look like all blacked out suits, blacked out helmet, visors are blacked out. They all seem to be carrying weapons, moving in single file down the portside tramway.
Mr. Tim, have you informed Captain Harm and Captain Max about this?
Well, Captain Oni, I tried, but unfortunately I wasn't aware that my communications do not transit past the port dock.
Oh no.
I'm
Well,
sure they'll be fine.
I think I should go out and try to warn them. This does look suspicious. We've run into these, shall we call them characters before?
Characters is a very novel word. I should use it more often. Yes, these characters. Are you taking a weapon with you? We have grenades.
Do you have any? Do we have flashbangs?
I'm sure they're the triangular ones. Look in the confiscating hold. See if it's there.
I shall do so then. But, Mr. Tim, you should know that I am non-confrontational. But a flashbang will do.
Well, it was nice knowing you, Mr. Oni.
It's nice knowing you too, Mr. Tim.
So, Oni, you go to the contraband hold. Contraband hold is a hidden hold in the ship. You have no idea why the Bishop Gambit has a contraband hold, but
Mr. Tim leads me to it.
Well, it's like built into the floor of the main, and there's a particular grate that the contraband hold, and it probably gives you little pings. Closer, cold, warmer, 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 cold, cold. You have to turn back around. Has a little game of hide and seek with you, and you open up the contraband hold. Max already knows this is there. I think Harm probably does too, but there's a duffel bag, and in that duffel bag there's all sorts of shaped metallic, ceramic, other types of objects, even looks like made out of carbon fiber, different kind of shapes, triangle, square, six-sided, hexagon. And
I'll take one of each.
Okay, so you take one
and leave it up to the gods.
because you have no idea except for what the triangular one does.
Maybe I'll take an extra one of those then.
Right. Mr. Tim says the triangle ones are the ones you want. He can't really see you anyways. And you need an evac suit, Mr. Oni.
My category 4 suit will not do.
No, it's not rated for temperature.
Thank you, Mr. Tim, for that knowledge.
You're welcome.
I'll put on the evac suit then and
Okay.
exit the Bishop's Gambit.
You exit through the same topside airlock, go out the double airlock into open vacuum or space. And you're transiting down the starboard side, though, and they were running down the port side on the other side. It's a huge space. Obviously, it can fit a number of ships, and there's like 13 large ships in bays. So it's a gigantic kind of docking bay. And you go down the port side.
Am I going past the ship that they exited?
No, that's all the way on the other side.
Okay.
You could get there. You'd have to go all the way around the front side of and then go back up the port side tramway.
But then
Right.
I wouldn't be warning my crew members in time.
Sure.
True?
True. You know, whether you investigate the ship or go and warn them or try to get within comms range or past whatever door, more than likely you figure that they've entered the interior and the metallic doors have prevented transit that close.
Okay, so I shall follow then the path that crewmates would have taken and tried to get through a door and basically say, Captain Max, Captain Harm, Captain Max.
I just want to see how did he get field medicine?
How did he get field medicine?
If he's non-confrontational, how did he get field medicine?
Well, field medicine. Are you saying that it's like warlike or something, or
Right,
or is it just more survival medicine in the field?
yeah, like what does field medicine mean to
Oh,
Tony?
okay, fair enough. Probably the commune that he lived on was a very expansive agricultural commune, and lots of accidents would happen with equipment out, and needed to learn how to treat things, not in a medical bay.
Okay, so more like survival medicine, really.
Yes, yeah, that's
Right.
it.
Well, then you don't have a role because you wouldn't have any idea why your comms aren't working.
Oh,
You, you,
it's not very technical, other than medicine.
you transit up the starboard walkway. Come to the front where it comes out, and you're going to walk through the small shuttle docking bay where other smaller work is happening. It's a much smaller space. There's only a single walkway going down the center, which is where Captain Max and Captain Harm went. You see a sign of a corner store that says Koba's. It obviously has this airlock door open, and it has this neon sign. You also see that the whole walls and all the metal has been tagged by graffiti, and the same thing that Captains Harm and Max. In front of you, you see "Welcome to Siesta 3," the Praxis bar, and these two airlock doors way in front of you. Which direction does Oni go?
So do I have within visual register the slippery characters?
No.
I don't have any indication of which direction they may have gone.
No. Mr. Tim says, "Captain Oni, have you reached them yet? I'm very worried about these characters."
I believe I'm to pass through the Praxis bar to go to the medical bay.
Right. That seems where I've lost communication with them. Forward.
Forward
Is where the Praxis bar. Forward of your position.
Forward of my position. Okay.
Right.
Mr. Tim, the left door or the right door?
I don't know. I always choose the left. I don't trust right-handers.
Then I'll go through the right.
Okay. Don't say I didn't warn you. You open the right door. It's a double airlock because you're going into atmosphere. And so you go through the first airlock door and swing it shut and close it, and then it re-equilibrates. You can feel air blowing down on you. Eventually, you know that it's separating the pressure. That's what the double airlock door does. Roll me a.
Can I ask Mr. Tim? Mr. Tim, were you making a joke?
There's silence. You hear static. As soon as you close the airlock door, you hear static. No Mr. Tim there as you're in that right airlock door. Make a flat intellect roll. No bonuses. You don't have anything that will help you. But you hear.
Oh, I squeaked that one.
You hear.
And do I recognize it as gunfire?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like gunfire.
And just on the other side of an airlock door.
Right. Like in the Praxis bar itself.
I'm going to turn around and try the left door.
So you cycle out?
Yes.
you cycle out the right door, and then Mr. Tim says, "What happened? You're back."
Gunfire behind the right door.
I told you right doors were terrible.
Yes, but I thought you were making a joke, Mr. Tim. You must, in these situations, as I'm running to the left door, Mr. Tim, in these situations, you must make sure that humor is not involved in stressful situations.
Well, sometimes, Captain, only I just don't remember if it's humor or not. But good luck. The left door is probably better.
Left door it is.
You go in the left door, you close the door, you're in that middle period as it tries to do atmosphere. What do you do while you're in there?
Is there music? Oh, I can hear it out behind this door as well.
Yeah, but it's just you hear a couple and then it dies. It's just quiet.
Go through. Miss Captain Harm, Captain Max. I've got to crack the door then.
What do? You crack the door.
Captain Max, Captain Harm.
You crack the door of it. You're whispering to Captain Max, Captain Harm, and you get pings, ping, 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 and that's usually when you're connecting to like a local area network. But Captain Harm and Max don't respond.
Okay. I'll get a triangular grenade into my hand.
Okay. You peek through the door, Oni, trying to, just open the airlock door just enough. You probably cringe a little bit when it goes, and did I lose you?
Windows 11 prompt.
Oh.
For Christ's sake. Sorry.
And
my language.
Then you peek out the door and you see in the periphery, like you're just looking at this little sliver, I guess. How far do you open the door?
What do I see behind the door? I mean, through
it's only open like this much. Like you're looking through and you just see the wall, like this line of, maybe it's open 3-4 inches. You see a line of lockers and maybe helmets on hooks, down this wall. The door is pretty big. Like it's obviously 5 foot in diameter or more. You got to step over a little bit, but.
Right. So the little bit that I do see through there's other than things hanging off the wall. Well, actually, would I be able to sneak through? Open it wide enough for myself to sneak through, and then perhaps get underneath some of these suits and sort of be able to look between them and see a little bit more.
Sure. It would be a speed test, I think. I don't know if any of your skills really
probably not
would work. And I would put you at disadvantage.
Oh boy. Okay. Disadvantage. I'm not going to make this.
Well, at least it wasn't critical. But you almost 46. So you try to sneak through, Oni, and you just step out of the airlock door. It's still open. You maybe grab a hanging evac suit, and one of the helmets falls off from a hook, and it just goes rolling towards these figures in black evac suits. One swivels towards you and pointing his gun and says, "To your knees, quickly now, no fuss." You see a few bodies around. There's maybe 5 or 6 black suited individuals. There's a line of people who are laying face down on the ground. There's maybe 2 or 3 people who are bleeding out under a table, and he's got the black suited figure got a beeline on you with his weapon. Quickly now.
Yes.
Helmet off.
Yes. I need medical attention. I apologize. I am deathly sick with a massive plague.
He looks down and he goes, "You got an SG2 in your hand? Drop it slowly."
I think the pin is pulled out of it, so I shall drop
hold it. You pulled the pin by mistake.
While I was going through the door, yes. Probably brushed up against. Okay, so
Odie,
I'll go down on the floor.
You raise your hand with the pin out of this triangular grenade. He's got his beeline on you, and we will end it there for today.
So did I recognize any of my crewmates in the room?
No.
Okay.
Well, they're not in that room. They're not in the practice bar. They've already gone through. You probably could do a quick scan enough and notice that you didn't see Captain Harmer, Max in the bar itself. It looks like they have all the bar patrons in a line on their, face down on their hands. There are wounded or even maybe dead. And they've taken control of the practice bar at the moment. Any questions from me?
You did?
Well, hopefully you all had fun. And hopefully it's a setup for the next session coming to Siesta 3 and see what happens as Oni leaves the ship and you guys go towards the interior of Siesta 3. You have some inkling, but Max and Harm don't hear Omi's comms because the double locked doors prevent that short range. Even though Max would know that he should still have comms, and if he ever tried comms, and Harm would know they still had comms, but you don't have comms, and so something is up scrambling your comms with the Bishop's Gambit. If you had checked, given progress, you would lost comms somewhere, and that would have maybe struck you as odd. But then the sound of gunfire and making it through the bioweapon. Any questions or comments from me?